Good morning, students. Today we'll start with 18FT 504 and quality assurance in garment production is the name of this course. And we are at unit 3, which talks about quality assurance in fabrics and accessories. Now in this particular unit, we are discussing about different lessons. And in this, today we will talk about the types of defects in fabrics. In the last class, we discussed about specification sheet and how the specification sheet is important for us. In that, we have seen that different elements of specification sheet and how the buyer is giving orders to different factories throughout the world by means of the pictorial representations of their requirement in the specification sheet. Now today we will cover one important topic that is called types of defects in fabric. Let us see, students, what do we mean by defects in the fabric and what are the different types of defects come in the fabric, and what are the different causes and remedial measures which can be taken in such kind of defects when it occurs in the fabric or the garment. Now students, there are certain kind of attributes of defects which are there in the screen now. It talks about different types of defects in the fabric. There are defects like major defects, we call it as a major faults in the fabric. There are minor faults or minor defects in the fabric, and of course there are critical defect in the fabric. So critical, major and minor defects in the fabric, those are very important to understand. Now students, you may ask questions that this type of defects, first of all, why it occurs, this kind of defects in the fabric or the garment, okay, and how we will avoid such kind of defects and how the defects have been classified. Those are the questions actually needs to be asked. First of all, the fabric during the time of manufacturing, in a natural way, there are a lot of variations, variation in the fiber, variation in the process, variation in the lot of chemicals, variations in the lot of other gadgets what you are using, lot of accessories what you are using. So definitely during the process we expect certain kind of defects will be there in the fabric. Defect-free fabric, it is almost impossible to produce in the textile industry. So that is why when the defects are coming, whether the defects are acceptable or not, okay, just to understand that, we have to classify those defects. And as the name suggests, that major defects has a greater impact, minor defects has less impact, and critical defect is the most important one. Critical defect, if it comes in the fabric, you have to redo the fabric first of all, and in the garment stage if it comes, really you have to reject the lot. So that is the inner stories of those defects, okay, and there are the significance. Let us see more about such defects to understand their pictures. What about these critical, major and minor defects? Now when you are talking about the critical defects, let us start with the critical defects first. Now what do you mean by this critical defect and how you will categorize this critical defect? So this can occur because of hazardous or unsafe condition, okay. This will result hazardous or unsafe conditions. Students, this particular figure is there before you. Can you imagine or can you just signify what is this? This is simply a block, but this block is having certain kind of unsafe condition in the form of some sharp edges. You can see sharp edges are formed there. So this is very critical. So any kind of product, maybe it is a leather product or it is a plastic product or it is a garment product, such kind of critical defects may come in the inspection. So unsafe condition, hazardous conditions, because they are having some sharp edges in this particular figure, and if such sharp edges are there, it may cause some sort of hazards, okay, some accidents, okay. So that's why it is very unsafe. That's why it is categorized as critical defect. Can you understand by this particular figure what is that in that? This is also in this figure, there is some critical condition, okay, unsafe condition. Sharp points are there where this particular children is playing. So those kind of things actually we have to avoid, and if in the product such kind of defects are there, okay, hazardous or unsafe conditions are created from the product, then that particular defect will be called as a critical defect. Now let us see critical defect. Is there any other attributes are there? A very important thing about the critical defect is that it contravenes the mandatory regulations. Now students, you may ask me a question now. What is the meaning of mandatory regulations? Now as we have already pointed out in our earlier classes that there are some mandatory regulations for fiber content, then care level regulations, okay, flammability regulations. So a lot of such regulations are there. So any kind of defect that occurs or it deviates the mandatory regulations, so that defect will be classified as critical defect. It is very, very important, students, to understand this critical defect, because if this kind of defect comes in the fabric, garment, accessories, or whatever the product may be, the product cannot be sold in the market, it cannot be exported, it cannot be used, okay, because of certain health and safety issues involved in it. Now in the picture you can see that there is a care label. Can you understand by examining this particular image, students? What is wrong in it? Why it is so critical? You see that it is very critical because you see the whatever words are written there, it is not easily visible, okay. Some of the parts of the words are really faded away. So this is deviating from the mandatory regulations, because all the words, all the symbols, whatever has been used in the label, that should be easily visible, okay. Consumer should understand all the words correctly. If it is not, then it is violating the regulation. That's why this is the kind of defect. If the label associated with the garment, if contains such kind of faded kind of languages, faded words, faded symbols, then really it will be treated as a critical defect. In that case, students, you may ask question, what is the solution? Solution is that that particular care label has to be taken out from all the garment pieces and you have to replace it with a new garment label, okay, care instruction label. So that is the only solution to avoid this. Otherwise, the total lot will be rejected because of this critical defect, since it is intervening with the mandatory regulation associated with the care labeling. So that is the critical defect and importance of it. Now let us come into the major defects. What are the defects under this category, or what is the importance of it, how it generates, what is the important feature of it? If there is a major defect, this will definitely reduce the usability, okay, of the product. So during the time of use, okay, that some problems may occur because of the major defects. So that using the product is a major problem. So major defect, that's why, is to be rectified before use. The goods will not be rejected, but yes, we have to really work on it, and we have to just set it right. Okay, otherwise it cannot be used at all. The product is like this. So this is the particular diagram or of a particular fabric, you can say, where this kind of major defect may come. And without repairing this or without understanding the meaning of it, okay, or without correcting it, you cannot use it, because there is some sort of gap or hole has been created into this fabric due to yarn displacement. Now, what are the other major features? Now, this particular kind of defect is a visual defect, okay, and if such kind of major defects are there, it can reduce the sale value of the product, okay. So many of the stores, if you visit that lot of discounted stores and all these things, if you visit during the festival seasons and other during other seasons, then you can find that lot of sales are there, okay. Some discounted sales, like especially in the different kind of shoe manufacturing units or the shoe retailers, you can find this kind of thing. Lot of shoes are getting sold at 50% discount rate. So there are certain kind of defects are there, okay. That's why the sale value of the product is getting reduced. Those are the major defects. So that's why the major defects can be used, but yes, with some repairing work. So this kind of defect, that's why, is also a defect which has been taken into account seriously. Now, what are the other important feature of such kind of defect? If major defect is there and if you try to use, whether can you use the total useful life of the garment? No, because the holes have been created in the figure. So from that it will really propagate. The yarn displacement which is there inside the fabric, that will really propagate throughout the seam, and ultimately you will be tear it off. So in that case, the proper life cycle of the product cannot be utilized. You have to discard the material. Discard the material in the sense that useful life of the product cannot be utilized properly. So that is also one of the important features of a major defect. So you can understand by seeing this image how it is a major defect. Now students, if there is a major defect, there is another interesting thing, that 4 major defects, okay, is like a one critical defect. And if such kind of defect occurs in the production in the product, then we have to stop the production also. So you can really understand now, students, by major defects how it relates and what is the consequence of major defects occurring in a fabric or garment. So 4 major defects is equivalent to 1 critical defect. Now students, this major defects and the critical defect, that is also another important information, is that in the apparel industry during the time of inspection, if there is one critical defect in the particular lot and there are major defects are there in the lot, then the particular inspector take a decisions based on this criteria, okay. Major defects, how many major defects are allowed, that is again determined by the particular EQL level what has been fixed for that particular lot, okay. But this is normally 4 major defects is equivalent to a critical defect, and in that sequence if we go, we have to stop the production in order to maintain the quality of the product. Now let us come, students, about the minor defects. What do you mean by the minor defects, and what are the different criteria are there for this minor defect? Now this kind of defect unlikely to reduce the use of the product, you can still use it, okay, minor defect if it is there, okay. And these are some of the examples before you. There is no major or critical things are there in the garment, but there are certain problems, certain defects are there in the garment. But those defects are the minor defects on our naked eye. Now minor defects also, if you just to see that it is really can influence the cell, yes, it may influence the cell to certain extent, okay, if there are minor defects. So you have to give the discount of the product to sell it out. So this is also, you can see in the different stores if you go, that during the time of sale such kind of minor defects portions are also there and people are using it and they are purchasing at a discounted price. So those are the minor defects in the garment. Now this kind of defect, that the minor defect, okay, it is a workmanship defect. And why it has happened? Because some specifications are given in the garment or construction and it has been deviated from that. For that, the particular portion where this defect has come due to the, we call it as a workmanship defect, okay, due to specification and construction variations. We will see that different types of such defects, how it will appear in the fabric and what are the stages it comes. Those are the things we will see with some pictorial representations in the other slides. So these are the examples, as I have already told you, the minor defects are there in those kind of different products has been shown to you. Now again, the minor defect to be classified like a 4 minor defect is equivalent to 1 major defect. And it is understandable that this particular minor defect, if it is there in the garment, still you can use this particular garment or the fabric with the minor defect. Now students, we have classified now the defects, we have classified and we have seen that there are different kind of defects are there, like a critical defect, major defect and minor defect. Now if we try to see that what are the different kind of critical defects may come. So one of them we have seen that it may come due to the care level. Now there are other kind of critical defects are also there which can come due to stitching, okay. It can come due to construction problem, it can come due to sharp point, sharp edges, fiber content as I already explained to you. Then drawstring, it is also another problem in a certain area of the drawstring that is becomes a critical. Backing cloth which is used sometimes on the different kind of embroidery material. So backing material which is used in the 0 to 5 toddler garments. So that is also a construction problem and becomes a critical defect. So these kind of defects, if it is there in the particular consignment, the consignment will be stopped immediately until and unless those are rectified or replaced it with a new one. So this is about the different kind of critical defects which are used in the garment. Now let us see about the major defects. If we try to classify the major defects, then we have seen that fabric damage we have seen now due to needle and other areas, and we can also understand that this kind of major defect can come due to the country of origin, that is the level, if there is a conflicting level, or it is a problem of different kind of seam, the broken stitch, etc. if it is there, okay. Now there is a problem of hang tag also, conflicting with the hand tag what has been given, or the sewn in level, or the construction, there also little problems may come. And the picture what has been shown to you, it is also a very unique picture of a major defect, that is the shape distortion. You see, after washing in the knitted material, sometimes the torque or the side seam twisting may happen. Okay, we call it as a spirality. So if such kind of visible displacement of the seam is there after washing, this will also be treated as a major defect. So you have to rectify those defects. You cannot use that particular garment after washing if there is any spirality is there, because there is a shape distortion. That's why it has become a major defect. Now, third category of defect, when we are just discussing here, the minor defects, as I already told you what the minor defects, which type of minor defects are there, normally due to workmanship it comes. Now, here is an unique example of a minor defect. Okay. So, like a stain, okay, discoloration in the fabric, that can also be treated as a minor defect. Okay. You can still use this product, okay, but yes, some people may not purchase such kind of material where there is a stain or some discoloration is there. Any kind of dyeing irregularities, okay, any kind of hand problem, any kind of printing defect, all these things are coming under this particular category of defects. So students, you have understood now that what are the different classes of defects which may come in the fabric in the form of critical defect, major defects and the minor defects. And here we have seen the critical defects, if it is there due to either a regulatory problem or due to health and safety issues kind of thing. So it becomes very critical and you cannot ship the goods. Major defects, yes, we can still repair, but sellability is reduced. Minor defects, if it is there, you can use that material. Sellability will be not that much affected if there is a minor defect, but yes, of course, the value of the product will again diminish because of certain defects. So intensity of the defects, we have seen major and minor defects, how it is. Now students, you may ask where these defects will be located. Now these defects are located during the inspection. Either when you are doing the fabric inspection, this can be located, or this type of defects can be also located in the garment, okay, when you are doing the garment inspection. So students, there are two areas from where this kind of defects can be located and judgments have been taken because of these defects. So either we will really accept the lot or we will reject the lot. And if we reject the lot, how much time it will take to repair depending upon the nature of the defect, okay. And if it is accepted lot, yes, with some minor defects or some tolerable minor defects or major defects, it is accepted. But critical defects, if it is there, you cannot accept that lot at all in both the fabric and the garment inspection. So that is actually about the different kind of fabric defects and their classification. Now let us see students that when you are talking about the defects, how the defects look like, from where it is getting generated, and remedial measures if there is any, that we will see. Now question is before you, why do defects occur in a fabric? Can you answer students this question? Why defects occur in a fabric? What is the reason behind it? Answer is that any kind of manufacturing process due to natural, as I already told, natural variation in the raw material, accessories, whatever has been used, or in the process, or in the people who are doing this. So there are variations, efficiency variations will be there, okay. So manufacturing defects will be there in a product, but how much is tolerable? That is the thing. Like in the fabric, if you want to really that knitted fabric, if you want to produce, okay, some of the defects are before you. So those defects are there in the fabric and has been identified during the time of inspection, and you can see that how much gravity is there in those defects, easily visible. Some of the defects like a holes, okay, easily visible. Thin yarn, okay, thick yarn, okay, fly. You can easily now understand by seeing that which one will be grouped as a major defect or a minor defect, okay. But yes, in the fabric manufacturing process, defects do occur due to certain normal variations in the raw material and variation in the machines or the efficiency variations between different persons who are engaged in the operations. We cannot avoid the defects to generate. Now let us see, students, that when you are talking about the defects, let us first see different woven fabric defects. Now some of the defects are there before you. In this defect, really some of the portions you can really understand by seeing that how it is becoming a defective portions. Now let us see in a little bit of detail. This is one of the defects. Students, can you identify this? What is this? Yes, it is a selvage. Now what is the wrong in it? This defect is called bad or defective selvage, okay. And it happens, the cause is due to faulty weaving. So you have to really look at the weaving process from where this kind of defective selvage or bad selvage can occur, and you have to rectify that. Then only you can avoid such kind of defect to generate in the normal process. Now what is the reason of such kind of defect, students? You may understand now. The warp ends, okay, being set too far apart for the thickness of the yarn or in the finished fabric. Because of that, the bad selvage or defective selvage has occurred due to warp ends. So you can see that how this particular defective selvage looks like. So next time you can identify in the fabric itself what is a good selvage and what is a bad selvage or defective selvage, okay. Now let us see that another kind of defect which is also very common in the industry, or this kind of defects have been identified during the time of inspection, that is called the broken ends, okay. So broken ends in the warp. So it is definitely due to warp yarn that was broken during weaving or finishing, and the appearance is like this. So we have to really be careful when you are doing the weaving. A lot of inspection has to be carried out during the time of weaving, that whether all the yarns are intact or not. If that is not there, so broken ends or the warp which are there, okay, that may cause in the weaving, during the time of weaving, such kind of defect. Now students, is it acceptable defect? That question comes. Because there is a broken end or broken warp is there, and it really deteriorates the appearance of the fabric. The surface structure is getting affected. So it is a visual defect by which you can identify the defect easily, okay. So that is the broken end or the warp, and due to the missing of the warp or due to the broken of the warp, this has happened during weaving or finishing. So you have to do proper control in those areas while you are doing the processing. Similarly, students, broken peaks or weft also can happen, and this is due to the filling yarn or the weft yarn that is broken in the case of weaving, and you can see that what is the appearance of this. It looks like little bit of white area in the weft, that is the where it is interlaced, and this is in the horizontal direction. You just see there are two arrows have been given, that white yarn It is looking like a white yarn, but there is a gap created because there is a broken filling yarn or the weft yarn, and this is generated again in the process of weaving. So next time students, if you find such kind of defect in the fabric, you can easily understand from where it has come. People may ask you, by showing this fabric, can you identify this defect? Yes, you can identify this defect, and you can easily say that it is due to the broken peak or broken weft, and this is due to weaving. So that is the answer of that question. Next students, we will see some other kind of defects like a loose warp. Now what do we mean by loose warp? How it looks like, where it is originated. And it is produced again in the woven fabric, and tension of the warp yarn plays an important role to it. So you can see in the warp direction that arrow marks are there in the given image, and you can see easily that in the woven fabric, due to the tension variations, okay, this kind of loose warp may generate, and this has an effect on our eye also. We can easily, visually you can really detect such kind of defect, and this defect again has the impact on the use or the sellability values, because while you use such kind of material in the garment, obvious effects should be there, visual effects should be there of this loose warp. So that is why it is not acceptable. Now similarly, loose weft or snarl, that may also come, and this comes due to the looseness of the weft, and you can easily understand by the arrow that how it looks like, and if it really occurs in the fabric, whether you will accept that fabric or not. Can you give an answer? This one, what is the outcome of it? Whether shall we reject this fabric or still we will use this fabric? Yes, we can still use the fabric, but that particular portion of the fabric will be a defect. So we have to cut that particular portions, okay, and then we have to continue with this, stitch and continue with this, because this is a very important defect, and it is a huge impact on our eye, you can see. So it is a kind of example of snarl or the loose weft. Not acceptable at all. Double ends, when the two ends of the warp sticks and get together after sizing, sometimes it happens, and probable cause is really sizing, because gummy materials are there in the form of different sizing agents which are used there. So starch products are used, so those are the gummy materials. So there every chance of that during that particular sizing operation, two warps can stick together, and during the time of weaving, these kind of things will happen. After weaving, you can find that this kind of defects in the fabric, and this particular defect is also called as double ends. You can see that in the arrow mark there is a little bit of thicker portions are shown here. Thicker portions are due to, instead of one end there are two ends or double ends. And if you really examine or cut that portions, then you can easily find that there are two ends are there in that particular portions. Now during the time of analysis of any kind of defect, people normally what they do, they cut that particular defective area and try to pull the yarn if it is yarn related defects, okay, and try to understand. Sometimes some defects are due to double end, some defects are maybe due to the variation of thickness, okay, some defects are due to that variations in coloring. So all things is variation are there also, like a stain kind of thing is there in the material. So all sorts of things are there, okay. So those can be analyzed. So that is the double end what we have talked about, that two ends of warp are sticking together and they form this particular defect and this comes again from the weaving department. So next time students, if you find such kind of defect in the warp direction, you can easily say, so this kind of defect has come from weaving, not from anywhere else. Let us see students some other kind of defects also, like a tight end. What do you mean by a tight end? Okay. Tension of the warp yarn again is responsible in the weaving, and it may cause the tight ends. And it is also easily visible. Tight ends in the particular fabric, you can see by arrow mark, it is due to the tension of warp yarn. You have to understand by seeing that particular portions. That is the reason normally during the time of analysis of the defects, people normally cut that area, total warp wise or the weft wise, and try to understand how this defect has come. Defect has come to the processing, defect has come due to the yarn thickness or yarn twist, whatever may be. So tension of the warp yarn cause this kind of defect, and this defect is called tight ends. And this is there, generation of that defect is there in the weaving loom. I hope students you have understood this by seeing this particular image, how these tight ends are really has an effect on our visual observation. So students, let us see some other kind of defects, that is the float of warp. What do you mean? Now what happens if pulling of the fabric together with the cloth roller happens, then such kind of incident do occur in the fabric, and it is called as float of warp, the name of the defect. It is due to the again tension variation, pulling of the fabric together with the cloth roller. So float of warp can occur in the fabric. And all these kind of defects which I am discussing here, they all are having adverse effect on our visual observations. That's why this will be treated as a major defect, because it is visual appearance is material is like that. Okay, you cannot sell the product if there is a float of warp is there in your material and it is very prominent in the fabric. So that is the way actually the float of warp is classified. Now let us see students that wrong end color. What do you mean by the wrong end color? Now this again occurs, the portions what is shown in the round figure and with an arrow mark, a wrong drawing of colored yarn. So if there is a wrong drawing in operations in the weaving, then the wrong end color may appear in the portions as indicated by the arrow. Now students, whether this is acceptable? It may not be, because it has a huge impact on our eye. You can easily detect, yes, there is some problem in that particular woven fabric. Problem is due to wrong end color is there. So you cannot use that portions while garmenting. You have to cut that portions out. So that is the wrong drawing of colored yarn which has happened in this wrong end color defect. This name of the defect is wrong end color in the particular fabric. Let us see students some other defects also along with this, like a mispick. What do you mean by mispick, students? As the name suggests that some pick is missing. Wild guess. Now in the weaving, what happens? The particular operator who is working, okay, and the machine is stopped due to certain drawbacks in the machines or kind of faults in the machine or due to the shift change. Okay, so a stopped machine is getting started, and without picking the broken weft from the set, then such kind of appearance may occur in the fabric, and this is called a mispick, and this is the difficulty of the operator who is actually operating the machine. Okay, so that is the broken weft or mispick. Okay, it occurs due to the mispick. The defect name is called the mispick. Okay, so that is the way the woven fabric defect is classified, and it is normally visible to the human eye, and really if you do the impact assessment, yes, this is having some good impact on the quality. So that is called the mispick and can be treated as a major defect. Now what do you mean by the double pick, students? Double pick, it is produced again in the woven fabric and produced in the cutter. Cutter is used in the loom shed, and if it is not worked properly, then this kind of figure may generate. That image is shown here, which is called the double pick. Okay, and again it deteriorates the overall appearance of the fabric due to the double pick. It again comes in the loom shed and in the woven fabric. So these are all the part of the quality control operations. So proper observations of the fabric is very much required, and we have to rectify those problems. Otherwise, these kind of defects do occur, and this will continue to occur. So quality must be improved by really taking some precautionary measures to it. Next defect is called the weft barre. It is very important, and these defects off and on comes into the industrial shed, industrial operations, wherein garment or the fabric is getting processed. Now, as I already told you that there are some normal variations, especially in the natural fiber products, the yarn varies. Sometimes count variations is there, okay, in the yarn, and this kind of count variation, if it is there, so a bar of weft will be appeared in the fabric after weaving. It cannot be visible before weaving. The variation in the yarn count, if it is there, by naked eye, by seeing or examining the cone, you cannot really understand is there any difference or of count or fineness or any other thing. This will be reflected only after producing the fabric. That's why this defect is very, very important to understand, and quality control of such kind of defect is not easy. But how we will really identify those defects and analyze those defects, that is the important thing. Now analysis is only possible if you cut that portions and examine the count of the yarn in that particular portions. Then only you can find it out that yes, in these portions, that before and after that portions, and in that portions, if you just compare the count of the fineness of the yarn, you can see the variations, and this will be visible after weaving only. So this defect is called weft barre and not at all acceptable in the fabric department. Students, let us see now what is the ball formations. Now you have understood the hairiness of a yarn, okay. Sometimes it happens that we get some lot of the yarn which is used for warp, and the material is too much hairy. Then the reed through this yarn, when it will pass, it will create some ball in warp yarn between the reed and the hilt shaft, and this is shown in the figure. This is a ball formation, and if that ball formation is there, quality of the fabric will be affected. So that is the ball formation, and defect is to be identified and really understood well during weaving. Hole in the fabric, this is also very common problem. And this kind of fault are really occur when yarns are getting damaged, okay, and due to certain other reasons this can also occur, and ultimate appearance of the material will be in the form of hole. And if such kind of things are happened, it is a major defect, because you cannot sell a fabric with a lot of holes in it, okay. So here yarns are getting damaged because of this effect, and it is definitely kind of opening has been formed, or the imperfection has been formed here, and the defect is called the hole in the fabric. Now let us see, students, what are the other kind of defects which are occurred in the production. Oil spot or stain, very common defect in the production. As I already told you, the discoloration defect, like a minor defect, okay, localized area, and it can occur in the spinning, weaving, finishing, such kind of, because when the lubrications are there, the machine parts are getting lubricated, always there is a chance of oil, using oil spot, stains, all these things may occur due to this. So discoloration may occur at certain points, and oil stains can be the end result of it. Oil stain or the oil spots can be created in a localized area, okay. But this kind of thing or this kind of defect can be easily removed also, like a laundering, dry cleaning, etc. But overall, yes, it is a defect, and this defect is classified as a minor defect. Now students, how we will then really remove such defects or prevent such defects? Can you answer? Only by taking proper precautions. Precautions in the sense that when we are producing the yarn, we have to be carefully produce, or in the weaving, when you are producing the fabric, we have to be extra cautious that the oil should not come and come in the fabric, okay, and sit on the fabric and deteriorate the appearance of the fabric in the form of spot or stain. Students, we will see now another defect, that is called the tails out defect. Again, it comes due to the cutter problem in the woven fabric, and defect is like this. So this kind of fault is produced again in the woven fabric when the cutter does not work properly in the weaving zone. Temple mark also is related to the weaving, and placement of the ring in the temple bar is wrong, or the pressure of temple is very high. Then such kind of temple mark, as you are seeing in the image, such kind of temple mark may come. So next time, students, if you inspect some fabric and if you such kind of defects are there before you, you can easily identify that yes, this is the defect is called as a temple mark, and this has occurred in the fabric stage in the case of weaving. So those are the products or the woven products where such kind of defects may occur. Reed mark is also one of the defects in the woven fabric. A crack between the group of warp ends, either continuous or at intervals, and this is due to the wrong drawing in operations of the warp or damage to the reed wires. So such kind of image can occur due to this, which is called as reed mark. It is a problem in the wrong drawing in problem or damage to the reed wires. So both of the problems are there, due to which this reed mark may appear as a defect in the woven fabric. So cause is the drawing in operations and damage to the reed wires, any one of them. And what is the remedial operations? We have to do the perfect drawing in of the warp. We have to be extra cautious while we are doing the drawing in operation of the warp. And also we have to observe the read wires correctly. The inspection of different parts of the machines frequently has to be done. So then only such kind of defects in the form of read mark can be avoided in the fabric. Now students, there are many such defects are there. So one of such defects are the slubs and the knots. And you can understand these slubs and knots are the very common defects in the fabric. Yarn sometimes contains slubs, is a natural variation in the yarn. So some of the threshold scales have been shown that how these defects are there and how the knots are there in the fabric. Thick and thin place is a very common one. It is due to the count or the fineness of the yarn, and the appearance of the thick place is like this. Now here we have seen so far the defects in the woven fabric. Let us see some of the examples of the knitted fabric. One of such examples are before you, where this kind of defect can be produced from the manufacturing, okay, and up to the finishing stage. So defects can occur in the knitted fabric. So it can be from the yarn, it can be from the manufacturing, it can be from the dyeing or finishing. So one of such defects have been shown before you. So lot of defects are coming due to the needle operation in the knitting area. And you can see that how the needle operations are there in the fabric. And if you see now the faults which are there, okay, in the dyeing of the knitted fabric, we can find lot of such problems are there. One of such dyeing defect has been shown here, where uneven dyeing may result due to improper dosing of the chemicals or improper selection of the dyes, not compatible dyes, compatibility with the some chemicals or auxiliaries. So those things may happen. Now patch may occur during time of dyeing. So patch dyeing effect also may occur like this, what is shown in the figure. So patch dyeing is there. Then roll to roll variations, yes, this is very common in the industry. Roll to roll variation or meter to meter variations occur in the fabric. So while we are doing the cutting operation, we have to be cautious that we have to do the sorting properly. The rolls are to be sorted out. That is the only way to get rid of such kind of roll to roll variations or meter to meter variations in the dyed material. Now batch to batch variation also is very common in this industry, dyeing industry, as is shown in the figure. The same kind of dyeing has been carried out with the same substrate, but you can see that variations in the batch. Okay, same color, same group, but yes, batch to batch there is a variation in color. So this may also occur due to dyeing. Then softener mark or the dye mark, these are also very common, and some of the figures are shown here. Softener mark and the dye mark in the fabric. Okay. So this can easily be classified. Crease mark is also very common in the fabric, and if there is a crease mark in the fabric, okay, so that is considered as a defect again in the fabric. Now there are faults during finishing operations in the knitted fabric. Yarn dust is also another problem. So it is due to the handling of the yarn. Setup in the fabric is another problem. Okay, there are a lot of causes are there for this setup operations. There are a group of remedies are available. Loop mark is also one of the defects. Needle break, this always happen in the knitted fabric in the form of needle break. So needles have to be inspected properly. Good quality needles are to be used always. Oil spots are very common, as we have already seen in the fabric. So we have to negotiate it correctly. A lot of precaution needs to be taken thick and thin places in the knitted fabric also. It will create some sort of appearance like this as is shown in the figure. Variations in the thick and thin places in the yarn. So this is the yarn defect rather than a knitted yarn defect or knitted fabric defect. Mix yarn or lot mix, if it is there, you can see such kind of hazy appearance you can get in the particular fabric. So this is due to the mix lot. Now students, can you identify this fault? Yes, this fault can occur off and on. It appears in the knitted fabric in the form of the holes. And this is a major defect. Now in the industry, we normally do certain kind of blending. In the case of knitting, when you are doing a lot of cones are blended in terms of cotton or in other fiber with lycra, okay, stretched yarn. So in that case, if there is a lycra out, suppose lycra is running in some of the cones, if that is broken, then such kind of operation may occur as is shown in the figure. Lycra out in fabric is the name of such defects. Yarn contamination is very common in this industry. Contaminated yarn and how we produce the fabric out of it. Then yarn missing, yes, it is shown visually and prominently. So if there is a missing yarn, we will get such kind of figures before us. Now students, can you identify what is this? Yes, this is nothing but a spot. It is a dye spot, okay, and it is a faulty dyeing is the cause of that. Definitely it is. Peeling, yes, of course, there are a lot of instances are there where ball formation is there. This may be due to the yarn fault mainly. Over processing of the dyed yarn, that also may cause peeling. So we have to be very carefully select the yarn. Good quality yarn has to be selected. Over processing of the fabric, over processing of the yarn must be avoided. Unwanted marks sometimes occur in the fabric like this. Then a lot of other kind of defects may occur, like a sewing defect may occur due to the sewing faults. So appearance is like this. So some of the sewing defects have been shown here. Unsettled fabric, there also some defects are there. So those kind of defects do occur in this industry. Cotton contamination is a very common one and is shown here in the fabric. Vertical and horizontal stripes may occur also like this figure. So these are all treated as kind of faults. Barrenness is very common in the industry, looking like a count variation. It is a stripe kind of thing or yarn variations. Then the imperfections are there in the fabric as it's shown in the particular photograph. So how it looks like when imperfections are there in the material. Similarly, the contaminations. If there is a contamination, you can find, yes, there is some other kind of colored yarn can be contaminated from the next machines. And also you can see that an important defect called fabric press off. When the needles are all not functioning well and falls off, okay, completely disrupted, then such kind of situation may occur and we call it as a fabric press off. So you have to take proper precautions again while we are running the needles. We have to really inspect the machines properly while we are running, whether all the needles are working correctly or not. So that is the defect called fabric press off, and knitted fabric is having such kind of defects. So students, we have found that today the defects in the fabric, when you have tried to classify, we have seen that there are three kind of defects which are there in this industry. Whether it is a knitted fabric or it is a woven fabric, those are classified as thick or yarn in the form of different defects which may occur in the major defects. Then there are defects which are coming in the category of critical defects which are related to the really health and safety issues or regulatory issues it may happen, or the defects like a minor defects which may come like a contaminations or some sort of variation in the yarn thick and thin places a little bit, or in the form of some loose ends kind of thing, or little bit of discoloration or little bit of oil stain, small areas of oil stains. So those are kind of classification of the defect, okay, in the form of major, minor or critical defects. And we have also observed that critical defects are not at all acceptable. We have to totally remove such defects, and minor defects can be acceptable with certain conditions, and major defects again we have to repair and then we have to sell it out. Then only we will get the useful, the cost benefit of this kind of fabric. And then we have seen the different defects which may occur in the woven fabric and which can come in the knitted fabric, and how to do damage control, okay, or the troubleshooting of those, what are the causes and remedial measures. So thank you students for attending this particular lesson. We will come before you with a next lesson with a different subject. Thank you very much.